All right, what is up, everybody? I'm Cool40. We're going to be looking at PPG top cut deck lists from everybody from their event this weekend. The first one we're going to be looking at is actually Paleo Frogs, and I'm actually very excited to be talking about this because I think that this deck is probably one of the more interesting ones. First up, the missing card down here is number 45, Crumbo Lugos. For those of you that are like, oh, where's Crumbly at? And decided not to save when I was doing this, so... Alright, let's kind of dig on into this, kind of see what's going on. What was it? Last week we had a 32 trap card variant of Frogs top an event, and everybody kind of lost their mind and was like, what's going on here? Now, this build is more gearing towards the actual use of Demise and Pot of Desires. And like I said, I know some people have kind of gone away from this mentality, but these cards literally do say draw and do things. Like, you can't always rely on said floodgates to kind of get you to the points in the game to where you need to be to win. So you kind of have to rely on things like these floodgates to get you into game-winning positions. So let's dig on into this rather interesting hodgepodge of what's going on in the world of frogs today. So we have triple copies of Dupe Frog, one copy of Ronin Toad, triple copies of Swap Frog. That's it. That's the entire monster lineup for this build. I've seen some builds that play 2 Ronin Toad. I think that this is absolutely fine. No real use of trying to play more than this. Like I said, I think this is fine. Spells triple card Demise, 2 copies of Pot of Desires. Once again, also relatively fine. We're not trying to pressure this deck into losing to more of its shit matchups. Like, we want to draw cards and recuperate the traps that we need to be sitting from our deck. So, also playing 1 copy of Breakthrough Skill. It's kind of cool that this card has been gaining a lot more momentum in the current format than in previous iterations. So, that's interesting to note. We have triple copies of Goes a Match. Auto win cons are pretty good against certain matchups. Other matchups, they're not so great. Just, this card is both gaining and losing momentum. It's kind of strange. Like, in matchups it was good against, it's kind of losing it. And in, bad matchups, it's kind of gaining it. It's an interesting place to be for Gozen. Triple copies Heavy Storm Duster. Yay, back row destruction. 1 copy of Auto Win Order. Triple copies of Lost Wind. This card is also kind of gaining a little bit more momentum now. Depending on what you decide to blank on your opponent is really good. Also, the fact that this thing does recur itself back for the next turn, also pretty good. 2 copies of Paleozoic Candina. Honestly, Candina is not as good as it once was. Book of Moon in Link format, it's not so spicy. We have triple copies of Dynamiscus. Still full discarding, blanking 1 is great. Morella, sending a trap from the deck to the grave is still pretty okay. MST is also really good. And then, of course, triple strike, triple trap trick, also pretty good. The fact that trap trick gets you any sort of paleo trap or a lost wind setup for you to have for the next turn is so incredibly powerful that it's ridiculous in this current format. Like, this card did so much for paleo, for the artifact engine. I'm actually shocked. So we also have 1 Kuruma Logos. We have 1 copy of Summon Sorceress, 2 Miss Starboy, 1 Phoenix, 1 copy of Cerberus, 1 Borreload, triple copies of Totally Awesome, 1 copy of Sky Cavalry, 1 Obabinia, 1 copy of Anomalicus, and then, of course, 1 Phoenix and 1 Cat Shark. Side deck here is pretty spicy. With Tweeter of Millions, 2 copies of Shared Ride, triple copies of Anti-Spell Fragrance, and this really hot tech choice. Activate only when all monsters on the field are face up. Both players send monsters they control to the graveyard, so that they can only control 1 of each attribute. Forced board wipes that don't target. Interesting time to be alive for this format. This is pretty spicy, but it is also a normal trap card that you do have access to off of Trap Trick. We do have 2 copies of Different Dimension Ground and triple copies of Wiretap wrapping this list up. But, I mean, it's still Paleo Frogs. You still kind of have the same initial problems that you've had really all format. Like, you need to go first. And if not, you're going to have issues. But maybe Battle of the Elements really curves some of your shit tier matchups and makes them all the better. I'm not exactly sure. But this is a very interesting one to me. And I'm intrigued to see how much power that this is going to gain. Now, next up, there's the corrected list. Haha. Moving on along. All right. We actually have a little bit of Pendulums. I believe that this was the winning list from the event. And down here is the contact C that actually ends up winning him the game against Cody. So this is actually the tech choice that you kind of play against Salamangreat. So when your opponent normal or special summons a monster, except during damage step, you special summon this card from your hand to your opponent's field in defense mode. This card's controller cannot fusion, synchro, exceed, or link unless they use this card as material. I understand that you can make Fenix with this, and it's really cute. But at the end of the day, like, you can't really advance too much on your plays because Phoenix doesn't give you a zone. So anyway, this is Pendulum Magician starring yours truly, Contact C on the side. So we have 2 copies of Black Fang Magician, triple copies of Chronograph Sorcerer, triple copies of Ye Olde Droll Knockbird, one of the best cards of this deck actually has now. Of course, you don't have room for Ash in the main. Kind of got to compensate for that somehow. Of course, we have triple copies of Harmonizing, 2 copies of Ye Olde Jackal King, triple copies of Mystic Master, or Mythical Beast Master Cerberus, 2 copies of Oath Dragon, 2 copies of Purple Poison, triple copies of Supreme King Darkworm, 2 copies of The Gate Zero, 1 copy of Time Gazer, triple copies of Wisdom Eye, and 1 copy of Zingankate, and 1 copy of Dragon Pit. Actually, the fact that this card is gaining a little bit more momentum now, the fact that you can just discard, freely destroy a spell and trap card, and it's searchable off of Pendulum Call, like, yeah, this card is pretty fucking good now. We have 2 copies of Dragon Shrine, 1 copy of Foolish Grail, triple copies of Pendulum Call, and triple copies of Pot of Desires. Card says Neg 9, draw 2. It's really good, actually. Down here in the extra deck, we have 1 copy of Zephyr Metatron, 1 copy of Wee Witch's Apprentice, 1 copy of Heavy Metal Foes Electromite, 1 Boral Sword, 1 Borreload, 1 Time Star Magician, 1 copy of Supreme King Dark Rebellion, 1 copy of Absolute Dragon, 1 copy of Norito, 1 copy of Nightmare, 1 copy of Dweller, 1 copy of Clearwing himself, Meteor Burst, Boral Savage, and Vortex Dragon. Side deck looking a little bit more interesting. I mean, Lancey is pretty much a standardized norm now. Triple copies of that. Triple copies of Contact C, triple copies of Denko, triple copies of Lava Golem, and triple copies of Red Reboot. I'm going to be the first one to say that I thought the only way that this deck would survive would be continuing to play Kali King Yugioh with the rank up magic, but it's kind of proven that you just don't need it. Like, Contact C, at the current point in time, people are going to have to build around this and kind of deal with this, I almost feel, because, like, the fact that this card exists now, and players are kind of taking advantage of it. Like, when a card like this exists, people have to make bad metagame calls to counteract this. So, we'll see if this sticks or if this was just kind of a one-time thing. And the last list is actually Salamangreat, coming off of that this bad boy. So, we have triple copies of Ash Blossom, 2 copies of Effect Veiler, 2 copies of Phantasme. Of course, such a good win con card in matchups like... against Sky Striker, this card is just kind of hard auto win. Like, you resolve this, your opponent's just like, oh, well, what do I do? Like, there isn't much you can do, unfortunately. We have triple copies of Lady Debug, 1 copy of Salamangreat Falco, triple copies of Foxy, triple copies of Gazelle, 2 copies of Jack Jaguar, actually, 1 copy of Salamangreat Mirror, 1 copy of Yule Mole. We have triple copies of Spinny, and 2 copies of Fusion of Fire, 2 Desires, triple copies of Salamangreat Circle, 2 Sanctuary, triple Will of Fire, 2 copies of Infinite Impermanence, 1 Salamangreat Rage, and 1 copy of Roar. And then down here in the extra deck, we have 2 copies of Balanix, triple copies of Night Wolf, 2 copies of Heatleo, 1 copy of Phoenix, 1 copy of Nightmare. We have 1 Blazing Hida, 1 copy of Chimera, 1 Mirage Talio, 1 Baguski, 1 Abyss Dweller, and 1 copy of Auto Win Condition card. I love this thing so much. Side deck, we also have triple copies of Buffer Row. This is that beautiful card that I was kind of talking about that we started seeing trend a little bit. If this face-up card leaves the field, you can discard 1 Cyberse monster, and if you do, draw 2 cards. You can only use this effect of Flame Bufferlo once per turn. Honestly, I do like what this card does. I don't know if in the current iteration we're going to see this, but if you want to make some money in the future, grab a hold of some copies of these. Hold them for when the format shifts to a point that, hey, we could potentially need these. So, there's that. We have 1 copy of Raccoon in the side deck. We have triple copies of Called by the Grave. Hand traps are very annoying against your Salamangreat deck. You like winning the game. 1 copy of Fusion of Fire. So this card is actually just kind of a win con in the mirror because it lets you fusion summon off both sides of the field, and then you just make Violet Chimera go. Same thing with Super Poly. Cleaning off the field, going. Great. Triple copies of Twin Twister, another excellent win con card against Sky Striker, and triple Red Reboot. Ultrageist are still alive. Got to do something about them. You guys know what I mean. So guys, that's all I have for the top deck profiles for this video. Please leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think about these decks. And once again, to those of you that top the PPG, congratulations, guys. And well, guys, I'm out. Peace.
The ride never, well, truly ends. Thank you, patrons. Without you guys, I don't know what I'd be wearing in these videos. I might be a truffle shuffle incident all over again. Guys, please also check out Vanquil40 for some awesome Vanguard content. Some other interesting stuff you might find up here on the left or in the description as well. Thanks for watching.